Chapter 1. The Scar of the North. The echo of iron hammer on basalt rock rang through the cold, damp air, a sound as constant as the moan of the wind sweeping the desolate hills of the north. Marcus Flavius, centurion of the third cohort, 1st century, of Legio IX Hispana, felt the vibration travel up through the worn soles of his caligae. He gripped the hilt of his gladius, not from any imminent threat, but out of habit. A familiar weight in a world growing stranger and more hostile by the day. It was the 5th month, Quintilis, though up here summer was a muddy mockery, of the monumental effort ordered by Emperor Hadrian, a wall to separate Rome from barbarian chaos. A declaration in stone and earth extending like an open wound across the neck of Britannia. A scar, Marcus thought with an inward grimace, a scar on the skin of the world. And we are the bleeding crust holding it together. All around him, the landscape was a controlled chaos of exhausting labor. Legionaries, their dark wool tunics stained with sweat and mud, dug the immense trench north of the wall line. The ground was an ungrateful mix of sticky clay and brittle rock. Shovels struck, picks rang out, and the guttural orders of the Optiones and Decani barely rose above the general din and the ceaseless wind. Men from Hispania, Gaul, Thrace, all reduced to beasts of burden beneath Britannia's leaden-gray sky. Marcus watched his men. Battle-hardened veterans, their skin leathery and their eyes resigned from having seen too much in Dacia or Germania, worked shoulder to shoulder with recruits barely out of adolescence, their faces not yet wholly stripped of rural innocence. He saw a young legionary slip in the mud, his shovel flying into the air as he fell backward with a dull thud. No one laughed. The Optio in charge, a Syrian named Vero with a scar across his cheek, simply yelled for him to get up and keep digging. There was no time for self-pity on the wall. Centurion, Varro's voice was rough, used to carrying over the clamor. Any word from the patrol? Marcus shook his head, his eyes scanning the dark tree line, marking the edge of the pacified territory, less than half a mile to the north. Nothing since dawn. Too much silence, if you ask me. Silence in the north was rarely good. It meant the Picts, the tattooed tribes of the mountains, were watching, waiting, or moving along paths the Romans had yet to discover. Just a week ago, an advance patrol had found the remains of 2 auxiliary scouts near the river Irthing. It had not been a quick death. He adjusted the heavy wool cloak over his lorica segmentata. Dampness seeped everywhere, chilling him to the bone. He had served in Germania, crossed the frozen Danube, but this constant moisture in Britannia was different. It gnawed at both spirit and body. Sometimes at night, in the Spartan wooden barracks of the fortress at Magna, what the locals called Carvorin, he wondered what the hell they were doing there, bleeding and sweating to build a barrier against an enemy they barely understood, in a land that seemed to actively resist Rome's presence. He was a competent centurion. He had served under the eagle nearly 20 years, rising on merit from the ranks. He knew the regulations, how to handle men, how to read the terrain, and how to stay alive. But youthful enthusiasm had long since faded, replaced by professional resignation. He carried out orders, maintained discipline, ensured his century was ready to fight. Yet Rome's glory felt very distant beneath this relentless sky. A sudden cry shattered the monotony of work. It wasn't a cry of effort, nor an order. It was sharp, filled with terror and surprise, and cut off abruptly. It came from the trench section where the newest recruits were working, near a rocky outcrop they had been trying to circumvent. Varro was already moving, hand on the pommel of his sword. Marcus followed close behind, his veteran instincts shouting that something fundamental had just been torn from the gray, brutal routine of wall construction. Nearby men had stopped, staring at the spot with a mix of curiosity and fear. The hammering had ceased. An unnatural silence spread across the site, heavy and expectant. Something had happened in the scar of the north, and Marcus had the chilling premonition that it was not the work of the Picts.